You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
This is Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner, Season 3, Episode 29, our season finale and the end of the road. Charge, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Yeah, hard to believe another TBT season just about completed. So tonight being Monday night, had the final game tomorrow, Tuesday from Dayton. So another fun year, another exciting year TBT. But like you said, almost the end of the road.
You're into the road. It's been a fun season. You made a couple games. I was able to make 24 and a half. We'll count the rain out as a half, I guess. So it's been quite the fun ride this season. And we've come to our final two. So how we got there, first of all, the Dayton atmosphere was electric. And I got to tell you, I was there. It's the first time I'd gone to the finals. I believe you went last year. Dayton, one of the great basketball cities in America. So it was a real honor to watch games there. And I can tell you, the crowd delivered. When you were there last year, was the crowd also just a great, great crowd?
Yeah, it was a great crowd. Like I said, it wasn't Red Scare kind of driven, but the Boeheim's Army, especially in that finals game, really showed up, and it had a good support there too, because obviously Team 23 at the time had a lot of fans cheering for them, and I think a lot of the locals obviously pulled behind the underdog team, and it was a great atmosphere last year as well. So not surprised that Dayton got to host a region and ran through it, and did not disappoint. With the attendance and the atmosphere.
And we had a very strong Final 8 to get to the national TBT quarterfinals. And a lot of teams, we thought a lot of high seeds we thought would get through. Red Scare being a 3 on their home floor wasn't terribly surprising. And the debutantes to the ball, the real surprise here seems to have been Autism Army, which obviously is a quality team, but no one really – people saw them winning some games. I don't think they saw them coming – this far. Charge, are you a little surprised, not to the quality of the team, but this is how far they got?
Yeah, obviously Autism Army is known to be winners, but having that path and needing to get through Florida TNT, I think everyone believed Florida TNT had a easy run to the Final Four. And so to kind of see that not play out was I think, the biggest shock. But their teams always kind of showed up, played hard. Delroy James always shows up and plays hard. But the thing you see here, I mean, a handful of number one seeds, looks like 5 of them there, and a couple 2s and a 3. So TBT does a great job seeding every year. So I have to learn my lesson one of these years and just pick a lot of number 1s and 2s and see if my bracket can't be salvaged one of these years. But
see all this red. Yeah. See all this red. All this red.
It's brutal.
There's like nothing here is correct. Not a damn thing. I got everything wrong.
Yeah.
So basically, if you ever remember our picks, always remember to vote against me, at least in the picks, maybe not fantasy.
Go the opposite.
Easily the opposite. Okay, so look at this a little bit. So first of all, how did they get here specifically? Let's start with Blue Collar U, the sort of more traditional alumni team, really strong. They just pimp slapped New McGrady in the first round in Syracuse. I was there for part of that. That was something. The Friday's beer game was an early scare, and Friday Beers really could have won that game. Maybe if they had played Eric Griffin more. That was a great atmosphere in the prenups to Syracuse. Syracuse was not able to beat the Nerd team, which Blue Collar U was able to handle a Nerd team that probably left a lot on the table after that game. And then they got to Dayton, and then they handled a very good Hardfire team by outplaying and out-hustling a team in a Hardfire built on hustle, and then handling the Red Scare despite a heroic game by Scoochie Smith to get this far. I mean, first of all, is that a pretty difficult road charge to get through?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, New McGrady to take them to town in the first game was a surprise because New McGrady always shows up right. They're a good team. But, I mean, when you're talking Beers and Heartfire, Nerd Beat, Boeheim's Red Scare at home, I mean, that is one heck of a run. They made the run to the Final Four last year. So, you can call Blue Collar number 1, but they happen to be in the same region as Boeheim. So, no surprise here, that they came through. Great role players, great stars on the team, and they backed it up for the second year in a row.
Yeah, so that's a great run they made. Let's talk about the other half of the bracket, the Autism Army. Now, before we even get into the road, people, including us, really wondered about the validity of the Rucker region, which basically everybody thought that would be sort of the cursed region, gets to eat every bit of words they said. People were trying to avoid the region, and I think next year, if they come back to Rucker with a team going to the finals, maybe more teams are willing to consider it. But this road was quite interesting. They almost lost their first game, the Peacock Nation. They're really one last shot from Desi Washington, who was inexplicably denied the ball in his last possession from losing that game. That was very close, with Nigel Johnson hitting the first ever outside inning slingshot, which is an incredible atmosphere at Rucker. Not much of a test against Big Five, despite Ramon Galloway playing really well. And then a barn burner against one of the great teams of this tournament this year, HBCU, and one of the just best games you'll see in a mid-round. That was a fantastic, fantastic game. Leaving Rucker, they came to Dayton as decided underdogs, one of the few teams that people thought didn't have much of a chance, and they've been proven wrong ever since. Taking TNT to task and then beating the Aftershocks just a couple days ago in an incredible, incredible game. Charge, is this an unprecedented way of going from outdoors to placing two huge favorites? Like, how unusual was Autism's path to this game?
Yeah, I mean, very unusual. Just, like you said, they had to get through Rucker, which, was just a total wild card. YGC was in there, who everyone I think thought was going to make the run, being a Marcus Smart led team. Some good high-level overseas pros over there. And so, to scrap their way through, two dogfights with HBCU, with Peacock Nation, and to go off on Big Five was a shocker as well. But once you get done with that and you go into Florida TNT, which was just insane that they were able to run TNT off the court. Obviously they were short Brandon Robinson, a little short-handed, but still, Autism Army wasn't running real deep with their team, and they're a little over as well. So I think that was one of the big shocks of the tournament. But, it was interesting, and I haven't looked up the data yet, but obviously going from Rucker, where it's a little bit of a challenge from outside three-point percentage, they couldn't miss a shot that game. They were just nailing it shot after shot, and their guys were coming up big game after game, especially when you go into the aftershock, so you get them out of their home environment. Got taken down by Autism, but yeah, this was just a wild run. I don't think many brackets have Autism Army going to the championship game unless you're a friend or a family of Autism Army. So I'm sure those folks are loving life and probably sitting pretty high among the TBT winners right now. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. But well deserved. They've scrapped every game. Nothing came easy, and they took care of business every single game.
As a side note, Charge, how do you feel about our friends at Inside making the name Wheat Mamba for Connor Frankamp? I kind of like it. I've heard some people say it's corny. I kind of like it personally.
Oh, no. We're just in two different atmospheres there. And I got a kick out of, some of the people like Tyrese Rice, some of the folks who are high level overseas players kind of goofing on it. So yeah, so if those guys are going to be that public about just a bad name, yeah, I'm gonna say bad name. And and he didn't really show up this year either, so let's call it what it is. Connor Frankamp had an okay TBT, but he did not have a Wheat Mamba TBT by any stretch.
He was the best player on our team that made the Final Four. What do you mean? He is not. Was he as good as last year? No, but he's still really good.
It was okay numbers. They were pedestrian.
Look, I know you're a stats guy. You don't actually understand basketball, but not every part of basketball is in the stats charts. He commanded the floor.
I'm looking for him to get the ball and score some winning buckets. It didn't happen when it counted down here. He was on the bench during the Elam at one point.
That's true.
On there. I'm sure they were trying to get their matchups, whatever, But I thought he was going to do. And Walt's still kicking himself. He took the over on 11.5 points on the one and couldn't scrape out 11.5 points. So, yeah, I like someone else on Aftershocks a little bit better. But, no Wheat Mamba. Got to put that away.
Fine. Where are you staying, by the way? That's a really nice wall behind you.
Yeah, I'm at the beautiful Marriott in Plano, Legacy something or other. But, yeah, they got a fancy wall here. So, yeah, this is
I like that.
A little bit of uptick from the Fairfield Inns I normally hang out at. So
as you can see, we're back at TBT's Brooklyn World Headquarters. The trip is over, 24 and a half games. We're finally home. The missus wanted me home, so it's time to come home. Couldn't stay for the final. I have work to do because I'm supposedly an architect, so I had to come home. But it is what it is. Let's get into these matchups. Now, first of all, before we get into the actual matchups, what's really interesting is a lot of teams at TBT play for a cause. But both these teams are playing for something much bigger than themselves. We did go ahead and clip up some of their press conferences. We didn't want to bother the teams before the games, give them prep. We did use the press conferences we attended to cut up some of the quotes and use this for the show. So I'm going to let them say in their own words what their causes were. And we're going to start with the guys from Autism Army speaking to what they're actually playing for with a short clip from their press conference after their win against Aftershocks.
For me, I know for everybody else, it's what's on the jersey. That's what we're playing for. You know, the money is cool, it's great, but we're playing for the cause, you know what I'm saying? And I know Isaiah and JB and Del, they can speak more personally. You know, I didn't know too much about autism before, you know, I heard of it. But, you know, being around these guys, you get a sense of, you know, what they deal with on a daily basis. And you look at it a totally different way. And I want to help their cause and bring awareness to autism. So that's what I'm here for.
And when you have guys like that, that's willing to buy in and put their ego aside and not worry about how many points they score, how many minutes they play, it don't matter. Because the cause, like he said, the cause is bigger than anything. So you have to put your ego aside and you have to just lock into what the team is doing. And we came together, man. We a family now. You know, we've been in this since our second year. We didn't have everybody on this team last year that we have this year, but those guys are still family. It don't matter. We started this thing together and we family, man. And that's just how we rocking.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that they're playing for an actual cause, we've seen this at teams like Sideline Cancer with their cancer research contributions. We've seen this with a lot of other teams where they are really playing for an actual cause, and that's basically taking teams to play beyond themselves a little bit. Like, it's a quality team, but I think we're all a little surprised they got this far, even though they're obviously all good professionals. So what do you think the edifying thing of playing for an actual cause does for a team, especially when some of their children actually have autism? Like, what do you think that does to help them in those tight moments?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think it just really kind of grounds them. Obviously, everyone's out there to win and compete, and I think it takes some of the pressure off that win, lose, draw. They're fighting for something bigger than the basketball game there, so that you can go out there, play loose. You know that you're representing yourself, that you're representing your cause well, and that's almost equally as important. Obviously, the money's going to go a long way for any of these causes that win, but I think it just really gives them the ability to go out there, play within themselves, enjoy the experience, and still winning and putting on a good quality product. So it's pretty awesome to see. Angel Gray did some great interviews with Isaiah Swann, so I'm sure everyone caught those at the end, especially at the end, one of the games of Rucker. So pretty powerful stuff, and I just really enjoyed those interviews and Isaiah Swann talking about the Autism Army.
Yeah, I mean, they've all been really accessible and really vocal about what it's meant to them. Now, they're playing for a cause that's specific to the team. Buffalo obviously has a completely different situation. They had that big tragedy with that racially motivated mass shooting a while back, and that's been on their minds a lot, to the point where their jerseys on the back actually have names of the victims, or in some cases, Buffalo Strong, because they're trying to edify and sort of help a community that's really been scarred by something really terrible. So let them talk a little bit about this in this next clip. Now, to be fair, I want to make sure one of the other press members did ask this question, not me. So I'll make sure we give credit to the person who did it. So the podcaster in question whose name for me, it wasn't ours, but I'll try to tag him when we send this show. But anyway, let's talk about what Buffalo is playing for in the words of some of the players.
It'd be like we got to win this tournament, and what would that mean for the community of Buffalo?
I think it would mean everything for the community of Buffalo. They're behind us. They send us text messages. They hit us on social media saying, keep going. We supporting y'all. I've been in Buffalo probably for like the last 2 months, and I can feel the people grieving, and they trying to get back on their feet from the incident. The grocery store actually just opened back up, and people are starting to go back there and stuff like that. But no, we just represent them, Buffalo Strong. We doing it for them. We doing it. It's bigger than us, and hopefully we can put a smile on those families' face in the city of Buffalo.
I find it crazy, if we're being honest, that people are asked to process grief in such a real-time thing. This didn't happen that long ago, and people are still dealing with this, and it's horrible in ways that these sort of things happen. And always, in fact, because these people are still dealing with it. So it's trite to say basketball can unite people, but maybe them winning can just help a little in something that's just horrible. I mean, I'm not really sure if it's enough, can it help a little at least?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's just the thing, and I don't think anything can alleviate the pain that took place in that Tops grocery market in Buffalo, New York. But if it's even a distraction for a little bit, a minute, it can just really help people process it. That's what Buffalo kind of always does. You see the Bills Mafia and rallying around different causes and charities. Blue Collar U representing the victims of this shooting, and just a real kind of proud town, and really rally behind their people and make sure that everyone's taken care of. And so obviously it will never kind of alleviate what took place, but can put a little bit of ray of sunshine as people continue to process through that.
Definitely. It's such a sad thing. And I mean, it's just, I don't understand what causes people to do that. I mean, I don't know. It's just sick. Anyway, let's get into the matchups now. Talk about that. So look at the player card or the team cards real quick. First of all, you'll see some things first of all, Americana for Autism or Autism Army has played some really tight games. They got less than 7-point margin of victory in their 5 wins, including some real tight ones. They're obviously rebounding. Both teams are rebounding the ball well. Blue Collar U is really valuing the ball. Only 8 turnovers a game. They're actually stealing it more than they're giving it up, 9.68. I mean, that's a pretty good ratio. If you're stealing it more than giving it up of any kind, even dead ball turnovers, that's a really great way of looking at it. A little bit of more physicality around the rim for Americana for Autism, 4 blocks a game. But really looking at 2 teams that are pretty equal physically from the results, even though maybe is Blue Collar U a little younger, maybe a little faster.
Yeah, I think the stats were kind of remarkably close when you pulled those, and I was looking at those today. I mean, not a whole lot of gap in there, and I think you hit the point that we'll probably talk about later when we reveal our picks. But Autism was getting a little tired at the end of that last game, and hanging on to win that was dramatic. So you're looking at guys 35 to 37 years old leading that team versus guys that are don't know all their ages, but probably let's call it 25. So you give up 10, 12 years, and some Blue Collar is a handful to anybody, let alone some guys that are, some of them retired from overseas and still coming out here and, scoring 18, 20 points a game. So this one's going to be interesting, but that youth is going to be really hard to deal with as we get into this final matchup.
Yeah. So looking at, we'll start with Autism Army. Before we go into their stats, we talked a little bit about what was next. We recapped the game against Aftershocks in the press conference and also talked a little about what was next. So we're going to run a little clip of sort of a semi-personal interview with them we asked them a few questions about the game and also about what had happened. So let's go ahead and let the Autism Army guys speak in their own words real quick in this clip. Coach, for next game, obviously, a few things clean up. You guys played great, obviously, but giving up 13 offensive rebounds to led to 14 second chance points. How do you prevent that being a factor in the next game in the championship?
Depending on who's playing, I think we got a game rebound a little bit. I had to go smaller to win the game to break the press, so I think that's when they probably got more offensive rebounds in the second half. But we just got a game rebound. I mean, we can talk about it. We can go through it the next 2 days. We can talk about rebounding, but depending on our opponent, you probably never know if we're gonna advantage on the rebounds. I thought those guys game rebounds, so I kind of knew that. But us going small at the end of the game, I think helped us, help us win the game, to be honest.
Daryl hitting 2 free throws to win in Elam, had to hit it both to guarantee the win. How much pressure did you feel at that moment to get those?
0. Just went up and shot it. I didn't even think, everybody was talking to me at the line, barking at the other team. I've been playing a long time, and I've been in that situation where I missed and I made, so it was just go to the free throw line, routine, shoot your shot, get in there.
Isaiah, obviously when your team needed a big shot, you were there constantly to make some really tight shots. You scored your team high 18, 3 of 6, really, really, really great game. How are you able to keep coming back to the wall to get some shots when it stopped a run to keep your team in it?
Staying ready, I've been in positions like this before. I've been a pro 14 years. So in those moments, you just stay with what you know, stay true to what you know, man, and don't change anything. You in the gym I'm in the gym all the time. So my thing is just shoot. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, that's it. Just shoot and just play your game. play your game, man, and just be unselfish. And I think that's what we do, man. We play our game and we unselfish. We want everybody else to eat. You know what I'm saying? We want everybody else to eat, man. People will get jobs off of this right here. And so if we want everybody to look good, we want everybody to just keep buying in, man. We got one game left.
One game left. Nigel, you've already made history. You're the first outdoor Elam-ending slingshot hitter, which is a great feeling. You got to say that concrete. Your record is infinity. You were undefeated in this event. You were 5-0. If you guys win Tuesday, you're just hanging it up. You're just going to call it 6-0 and just get the hell out of here.
If we need to go 12. Yeah, I like what Griffin said. If we win, we win Tuesday, Monday, whatever day it is. I plan on going 12-0. I plan on running it back next year, same squad, and double. What's it called? Repeat. Yeah, repeat. Back to back. That's my goal. So
Dynasty.
Dynasty says.
Yeah, we gotta take care of business on this next one Tuesday, and then just.
We one game at a time.
I'm about to say, I see your coach knocking the table, which means he wants to hit me for even bringing it up, I'm sure. So let's bring it back. One more question about the actual game. It seemed like when they went to a press, and they had been man most game, they went to a press, did that change? I mean, they got back in it based on that press, that into the third quarter steal by Kelly really started to change the complexion. Like, how did you guys combat that? Because you had some really talented guards. Did you start basically enabling them to handle the ball more?
No, but you know what? This is the makeup of our team. Some of our guards are so willing to let the other guards play, and sometimes, you know, it's not good. But I was begging Swann to come up, begging the guards to come up. But that was the first time I think we got pressed, or somebody had heart to press us, knowing how many good guards we had.
And to bring one more question back to that, I have one for Delroy as well, but to bring it back to you, I saw that Jacobin actually was grabbing his wrist at one point. He's okay though, right? He came back in?
Yes, he's good.
He's good? Okay. Delroy, I'll let you go real quick because I know you're busy, but you're a new father. Congratulations, first of all. And it means a lot that I guess you're at this event. You haven't been able to meet your child yet.
Well, I met him in spirit.
That's what counts.
I see him. I just saw him just now when I went back to my phone. So I know if he was older, he'll understand where I'm at. So it's all good.
You looking forward to telling this story Tuesday?
Not yet. I'll let you know Wednesday if I'm looking forward to it.
Fair enough. So it's really funny about that. He even said he's not sure he's going to be able to tell a story to this child yet because is it worth it provided he wins, I suppose. I mean, it's one of those interesting stories. It's very results-based. So one thing I found interesting about the interview was as good as they've been, the end of that game showed some relatively bad habits at the end that Blue Collar U is really able to exploit, which leads you to think maybe they have a chance in this game because Autism Army gave up the ball against a press. And Wes Clark and CJ Massenberg present a two-man press on their own for Blue Collar. They're basically guys who are great on-ball defenders. They contest everything. And giving up that many offensive rebounds against a team that has someone like Nick Perkins could present a problem. So this last game, from a physicality standpoint, might be a little difficult for them. Correct, Charge?
Yeah, and I think obviously you were there, saw them live. You've seen every Autism Army game, so you've probably seen the good, bad, the ugly of. So I'm gonna take all your assessment of what you just said and agree with all that because you were there live. But I really think these guys are going to have their work cut out for them. I think they've got the ability, but I just think that Blue Collar is going to be relentless, which we'll talk about when we get to their slide a little bit more. But they've got the stars that you talked about, the Massenbergs and the Wes Clark. But they got some great role players like Carruthers and Beard. And so when you talk about all those steals those guys are getting limited minutes and spot minutes and just really being disruptive. So this is incredibly disruptive Blue Collar team. And, these guys are going to have to, control that a little bit. Chris Wright hasn't seen a lot of action, and when he has, he's done well. But obviously, like I said, the age of this team is a concern. And then, of course, Nigel Johnson, you referenced that HBCU, or not the HBCU game, the Peacocks game, and hitting that first ever Elam in there. So that's a Charge guy. So we got to make sure everyone knows the power of the Charge. And Nigel Johnson, without that shot, I mean, this Autism Army team would not be here. And who knows who would have came out of Rucker at that point in time. But, great team. I'm just Isaiah Swann, definitely one of my favorite players at the TBT so far this year. Just been really fun watching him knock down some threes and really represent him and his family. So, love what Autism Army's done, and great game coming up against Blue Collar.
Yeah, they've actually played usually about a 7.5-man rotation, counting Chris Wright as the half man. So the good news about a 36-minute game is you can play some people less. But I still had to lean on Daryl Monroe for 31 minutes a game almost, which in a 36-minute game is a lot. And he's delivered with, a pretty tidy line of 10, 4, and 7, which is a sort of almost a Draymond Green-esque with more scoring line. So I think as long as they can, also him and James as relatively larger players, Delroy James is a wing, but he's a power wing, shooting from outside. This team can shoot, which is interesting because we thought the Rucker would punish shooting teams, but this team is a decent shooting team, which might help them control a half-court game a little bit more. So they're not the favorites in this game, but they're definitely have a good chance provided they control the tempo, control the ball, and shoot well. Let's go to their opponents. So we've got the Blue Collar U, a high-quality team. Should show up as in. There we go. And let's go ahead. We talked a little bit about the squad in person. So let's go ahead and let them talk a little bit about their experience getting this far and what's next in their own words. So we'll play the clip now from the press conference we interviewed Blue Collar U.
Wes, 22 points on 14 shots, a hyper-efficient game. You were +8 in the plus-minus. How are you able to keep your team under control and shoot so efficiently in what was a very, very tight game?
Last game wasn't the best game, but these guys give me a bunch of confidence and telling me, to stay consistent and stick to the same shots that I take. So, it was just one of them games where they were falling. I try to focus in on the shots that I want to take and the shots that I want to make. So, they fought tonight. Applause to these guys for giving me the same confidence as before.
And it's such a physical game. I believe you had told somebody in the Stripes that it was a big boys game. Was that what you had told them?
Come on now, these is high-level players. Scoochie, Darrell Davis, all them guys over there. No bailouts. Let us play.
Now, Nick, you went 4-14, but you're still able to contribute 11 boards, physical play, every tight rebound, every big body that needed to be thrown. You're one to throw. That's why you're wearing the hat. How were you able to contribute in a night where you had maybe not your best shooting night, but you're able to do every other thing that mattered to your team?
Really, man, just trusting my teammates. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, CJ, Swann came in, give us some big minutes. Obviously, Wes had a great night. You know what I'm saying? Just different guys that, I don't have to feel pressure to score all these points every night because I know, hey, if my shot's not falling, I can get in there, rebound, I can get in there, defend, and do something else to contribute to the team. I think that's one thing that's good about our team. We've been playing with each other so long that we understand that, it's going to be different guys' nights. And, what I'm saying, when it's not your night, well shooting the ball, you got to figure out another way to impact the game and, stay positive for the team because, it's all going to come full circle, man.
Now, CJ, you are undefeated with your son or your kid being born. Delroy James, the other team, is also undefeated since he's a new father in this event. So is this going to be one trend of a new dad's getting broken? Are you guys going to exchange some parenting tips before the game, or how's that going to work?
Nah, man. No, we're not going to exchange nothing. I'll just see him when the game starts and congratulate him on his new arrival.
Now, Coach, we talked about the rebounding last time, preparing for this game. You guys had played a pretty tight game with box score. Talk about the fact that you guys had a 12-7 assist turnover ratio, forced them into 10-10. So they were 1-1. You were almost 2-1. Was your team valuing the ball and playing good defense? Did that really help you spark this win in those late drives?
Yeah, I think when you have good players, especially the two sitting to the right of the guards, CJ and Wes, they don't turn the ball over. So that means that we're getting shot on goal almost every single time down the floor. And so that's a recipe for success. If you can turn the other team over and you don't take turnovers or get turnovers, you can shoot 30% from three and miss some shots, but you're still getting shot on goal. So, it's great not to turn the ball over. It's a coach's dream, and we got two that don't do it very often. So.
Now, one last question. I'll let everybody else talk. But the one thing I was going to ask you guys is everybody else, you guys were a somewhat of a favorite pick, but not quite the favorite. No one saw Autism Army coming. That's pretty much a surprise at this point. So, how are you going to prepare for a team that has pretty much put all the bettors down on money the whole time in this event?
Well, they have a good team. Being a guy that's been, overseas 3 years, 4 years, we're familiar with the team and a lot of different guys on the team. So, much respect to them. They are respecting opponents. So we know what they have. And, we're gonna put in a good scout and prepare well for the game.
Yeah, so it's interesting listening to them talk about the respect they have for their opponents. But I will say this, the thing I got from watching them live, and I saw 4 of their 5 games. I didn't see their final against the Night in person. I watched it on television from West Virginia, is they do they're a weird team in the sense they play a pressure style defense where everything's on the ball, but they also take care of it. Many teams that want to play fast and want to play aggressive don't value the ball. They make the whole thing on both ends a little ragged. They have a very unique trait of putting pressure on the ball, but also valuing it. So how unique is that in a basketball team from your experience of watching basketball?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they got some great play. I mean, when I'm sitting here looking at some of the turnover per game, I mean, these guys got their balls. They have one. Oh, I got the hater. As soon as that was starting to come out of my mouth, I'm like, hater's gonna have something to say. Yeah, so Massenburg 1 turnover per game, Wes Clark 0.6. I mean, yeah, so obviously to have these two-way players like Blue Collar U does, I mean, is just a rare trait. They can get after it at both ends, and yes, they got their two balls in their hand, just like you do.
The stress balls. I had the stress balls as a gift.
I know. Dealing with you, I need to get
no, I think I'm not that hard to deal with. Screw you.
No. It could be a lot worse. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable to see how they really do take care of the ball and can get after it on both sides. And found it interesting just as a stats guy. Yeah, and both guys have not lost since they've had their children. So pretty impressive. But yeah, I think the story here, like I said, with Blue Collar U is Massenburg, Clark, Perkins get a lot of conversation, but I mean, Lillard hit some incredible shots. I can't remember which game that was, if it was this one or the one before. I mean, he was coming up clutch, Bearden, Carruthers, just always playing their roles and doing a great job. So this team is just so deep. And obviously in the TBT, there's a lot of people with short in the bench, and they do go a little bit deeper. But I mean, the guys they're bringing in are just very talented, and you usually don't have a letdown whatsoever. So just an impressive team.
By the way, real quick, and one thing I actually love is plus minus. It's not perfect because it doesn't have the same sort of ethos in hockey as it does, but still an interesting stat. Look at Carruthers playing 18.3 minutes a game with a plus minus of 57. Scoring 4 a game only, but he comes in and does good things. Antoine Litter, plus minus in 14 minutes a game of 33, which means when Massenburg, Clark, and Perkins have to rest, the guys who come in for them are valuing the ball and keeping the train on the rails. So only they have depth, they have quality depth, which is a huge part of winning this tournament. All right, George, prediction time. Who do you got, Blue Collar or Autism?
Yeah, I mean, the story is great on the Autism side. Story's great on the Blue Collar side, but everything we talked about, I think this is just Blue Collar's year. They have the depth. Wes Clark healthy this year. They went to the Final Four. Wes Clark was injured. I can't remember what round he went out in, but healthy Wes Clark. These guys are making plays. They're putting the pressure on the other teams, creating those turnovers, getting a lot of steals. So I just think the depth of this team and the youth of this team is going to really wear down Autism Army. They're going to be getting after those guys and really trying to wear them down because you did see that in that last game against Wichita that was starting to be a little bit of a challenge towards the end of the game. They held on for it, but the youth and the depth, give it to Blue Collar U.
I tend to agree, and for the same reasons. I think both these teams are really good. It would not surprise me if Autism Army won. They've been good this whole tournament, and I think they'd like me to pick against them. So I picked against them pretty much ever since the second round. So I'm pretty sure they would prefer me to pick against them. So I will make them happy and pick against them. I think these teams are very equal. I think this game will be very good. I think it'll come down to the Elam ending. I think it'll be a very competitive Elam ending. But I think the way that Blue Collar U pressures the ball and also values it will just be a little too much for Autism Army. And again, I could be wrong. They got this far, and I picked against them every game. So while I'm picking Blue Collar U, my track record dictates, and again, we'll show that thing. My track record dictates. When you see all that red, pick against me. I mean, keep in mind, I had Autism Army. Where is it? I had them losing to the expats in the second round. So it lets you know eventually how smart I am. So by all means, please feel free to pick against me in charge on the Blue Collar U thing. Now, we actually went ahead, and the final's not till tomorrow. This will probably come out late Monday, early Tuesday morning, so you'll have a full day to watch it. But we did go ahead and talk about our all TBT teams. And again, we were pretty close. So we've been spending too much time together, obviously. So the reality is that we definitely have some of the similar picks. And even the ones were different, I don't really think there's any bad picks for either one of us on the board. So, Charge, talk about your team and why you picked the players you did real briefly for our preliminary all TBT teams.
Yeah, obviously, when you say preliminary, it's going to come down to this last game. I think you can have somebody move in, somebody move out. But start with Scoochie Smith. He was getting a lot of hype from the beginning of TBT and led Red Scare to the Final Four. So there's really no surprise there that he was the man. Backed it up. I mean, big play after big play. Well deserved and part of my all TBT team. Delroy James, the heart and soul of Autism Army, leader of that team into the finals, definitely part of the all TBT team. Wes Clark, and this is where I get challenged a little bit because you've got Massenberg, Clark, and Perkins. I mean, you can almost pick any two of the three, assuming Buffalo wins, and roll with one of those guys because they've just been solid. And the reason I went with Massenberg and Clark is the impact they probably had on this team. Wes Clark, if he didn't get injured last year, this team may be a two-time champion, and so his health all the way through deserves to be on here. Massenberg was questionable to play, waiting on the birth of his baby, and so those guys were kind of comeback players. And just outstanding job. And then, of course, Daryl Willis, not the Wheat Mamba, I thought was the story of the aftershocks this year. He just did a really nice job keeping those guys in a lot of games and producing in a big way. And a couple guys that I think could be considered is obviously Nick Perkins. I had on my list, but went with the other two instead. And then Clinton obviously just was the best big man in the TBT, went out around earlier. But with having the strength of the Buffalo guys, I don't think you're going to get into a round of 8 guy getting into the all TBT team this year. And, but that's what I feel pretty good about. Scoochie, Daryl, CJ, Delroy, and Wes. So let's hear about your team and what you got going on there.
Well, before we get into the players' picks, I want to go into the GM and coaches because we didn't mention that. And I think we both made pretty good picks. I saw Coach Robert Jones at Rucker, and he drew up some great stuff and got an HBCU team that went out in the first round by 30 last year and took them to a regional final, which they could have actually won. And the team they lost to is playing in the final. So you made a wonderful pick in Coach Robert Jones. I'm going with Tiny Morton instead, not because I think Coach Robert Jones isn't deserving. You pick a lot of great coaches, but I think taking a team this much of an underdog to get this far is worthy of being Coach of the Year. He's gotten a lot out of a talented but somewhat not as deep roster of some teams, the little older roster. So getting these guys as deep as he is, I think, is worthy of the respect. We both will have GM of the Year, Griffin Taylor of Autism Army. Great story. Taking the challenge and helping his team take the challenge and going to the concrete. People are running from Rucker. And him and his guys did not run from Rucker. That was a very brave and seemed like a very smart decision. Into the players, Scoochie Smith. I'm not a charge guy, and I don't know much about Scoochie Smith. I never really watched him play much in college. And he was a revelation. He was incredible. Watching him in person was an absolute joy and pleasure. He controlled the ball. The crowd was onto it. I could tell why. The ball was on a string. He had great control of it. He both could score and set up. At one point, he was the entire offense for the Red Scare. So he being in his first TBT and hopefully of many to come was an absolute revelation. Delroy James is an absolute bully of a wing. I actually misrepresented him as a center the first time I met him because of his size and strength. I thought there's no way he's not a big. And I started looking at his scores. He can score from inside and out. He rebounds. He passes. He's a triple threat at all scoring levels. And despite his age, is indeed the heart and soul of his Autism Army team. Wes Clark was probably the best guard in the tournament as both a lead and a scoring guard, as a distributor and a scorer. And plus, again, like talking about balls, I mean, he had 2 brass ones. Some of the shots he hit were just incredible. So he's had a wonderful tournament. Your picks of Willis and Massenberg are great. They're definitely were considered by me. I went with Perkins instead of Willis. They're both great. I went with Perkins because even though his stats are a little worse, he's been asked to do everything. As good as Buffalo is, they ask a lot of Perkins physically because they pressure the ball so much. He's on an island a lot defensively. And he uses his fouls in his body to back up a very physical guard team as well. So a lot is asked of Perkins, and he delivers well. Monroe I went with primarily because he does a little bit of everything. Not only has he gotten to the final game, but like he's filling up a stat sheet. He actually leads his team in assists, and he also is doing everything from a point center position. allowing the guards to get more looks at the basket. So he's been a sort of an unsung Swiss Army knife of a player. So I'm quite comfortable with my TBT picks, but I think yours are also very good. I think we definitely are on the right track with these teams. One guy I want to shout out briefly, looking at the stats, was Jalen Barford only played 3 rounds, but he put up numbers that in 3 rounds I don't really see that often. Like, he was kind of insane for Team Arkansas. You think that if Hannah's had come back a little earlier, they might have still been playing a little bit longer. So Jalen's been on the show. Just a little shout out to him. Anybody from the early rounds you think is worth mentioning real quick?
Yeah, I didn't really. I'm on the road working, so I didn't go back too many rounds to see where we are. But like I said, I mentioned Clanton. I thought he was just absolutely fantastic in this tournament. That whole
so it's Chris Warren.
Kenny Boyden, Chris Warren. I mean, these guys, Dominique Jones, put up big numbers. So those are some of the guys that stand out. And once you got to get a little deeper than there, you're not enough games to really qualify for TBT. But what we will do is once our fantasy league is over, I'll put plenty of tweets out about and we won't say who's going to win. We'll save that for the final reveal after tomorrow's game. But I'll share plenty of stats from different rounds and different players, average per games, different things. So I'll dive into that once that's over. But someone unfortunately not me will win this year, but that's okay. But well deserved. But just going back to Tiny Moore, and I was conflicted between Tiny Moore and Robert Jones because I think you can flip a coin on either one of those. But I just didn't go Autism Army for both slots. But for the GM Griffin to roll out there with these guys, I mean it would be too easy to try to get younger to try to do different things. But when you got Chris Wright and Swann and Monroe and Delroy James and to go to bat with these guys, have the confidence with them to get the coach Tiny Morton to lead so everything just fell into place. And Griffin's been around for a lot of years with Team Fancy and has been involved in the tournament. So to see him kind of make this move and rise to the top of the TBT as a GM is just really well deserved.
Yeah, and you can see I'm also wearing some swag from other teams. Thanks to all the teams who have supported and watched us throughout the season, our third. Charge, we may do another show. We probably won't. This is probably our season finale. We may do a quick recap show. We may not. We'll probably do a couple bonus shows for season 4. So any closing thoughts on the season before we do the final?
No, I think it's been a wild season. I mean, a lot of different things going on from, auto bids last year to Rucker Park to initially coming out that first 2 regions that, holy cow, we're going to have an all non-alumni TBT this year, and that got blown up in a hurry. And to see the alumni rise back to the occasion after the Syracuse loss, and great crowds that you saw them post today, 60% up on attendance, and that's even with Rucker, which doesn't draw a crowd just because it's Rucker. But to have that kind of success and just the ups and the downs, I mean, it's just crazy watching, not only from watching TBT and the risks they take and venues they select and the teams, ups and downs, people losing the first round you never expect. It's just typical TBT stuff. It's been a roller coaster ride, but it's been a fun one. And like I said, thanks to all the teams and folks who've been tuning in throughout the past 2-3 years. How long have we been doing this now? Something like that. 3 years. Holy cow. So always fun, always a pleasure. Really appreciate everyone who gives us a little bit of their time to put on a little bit of a show for y'all.
Yeah, thanks. It's always a pleasure to work with everybody. We're kind of been a part of the community now for a few years, even longer than the show. It's been a real pleasure providing you with some avenue of coverage for an event we both love and have become big fans of. Charge, that's it. We got our predictions in. We both think blue collar U, which means everybody should bet the house on Autism Army.
Yes, Autism Army is locked in now. You're right.
Okay, Charge, stay so we can talk about our closing business, but we're going to go ahead and close the show up. On that point, then, this has been our last official show of Zoom the TBT. Charge and Hainer signing off for this cycle.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.